Good morning, all. I welcome you all on the behalf of StudyIQ IAS English. Morning, Anshu. Yeah, hi. Everyone is here, including me. So don't worry. I am your most able friend, philosopher, guide, and vendor. And on the behalf of the entire team of StudyIQ, I extend my warmest regards to everyone, those who are watching me live, and those who are joining me for the first time, as well as those who are continuing with me since day one. So I give you my heartfelt wishes. I give you my heartfelt blessings that you all are prospering in your stages of preparation. So I, Pritesh Mathurkar, being the nodal faculty for analyzing the current affairs with regards to the Hindu, and this analysis will be having a utilitarian perspective with regards to prelims and mains. So my endeavor being with you all is that whatever content I'm showcasing you will be directly translated into your prelims and mains in the form of quality of answers, in the form of how your answers are structured, and the choice of words which you will use. Good morning, Anshu. So basically what we are trying to do in this endeavor is threefold. Number first, we are going to analyze the paper, because using that analysis you will be able to easily answer the evolving nature of civil services examination, like critical analysis, discuss, comment, explain. Number two, we will have rough coverage of around 30 to 40 marks in prelims and approximately 300 to 400 marks in mains. So that's a big deal, guys. And if optional comes in this purview, we can extend it up to more than 600. To morning, Aditi. And the third thing, answer writing, structuring, vocabulary skills, and whatnot. And as I promised, guys, the flow of work or the workflow of this classes will be like this, that I typically start the class with a famous quote by a famous personality, wherein we try to psychoanalyze the quote, and then I discuss the relevant articles of the present day Hindu in the PDF format, and all of these PDFs are readily available to you the moment this session ends. Very good morning, Anup. And you have to work upon those PDFs, guys. You have to work upon the content which I'm showcasing you. See, none of this content is worth, rather dare I say, it will be absolute garbage. I'm using the very harshest, the very strictest of words, but this is very important, that none of this content will be worth, it will be absolute garbage if you don't work upon it. So it's your endeavor, guys, along with me, that you and me are progressing day by day, that you and me are elevating our level day by day. So have trust in me the way I'm keeping my trust in you, that you are all doing the work on your end, I'm doing the work on my end. Okay, good morning, Twinkle. So let's begin today's session. Let's start the analysis of the 18th of May, that is Thursday of Hindu today. So before I begin, a very, very famous quote by Ptolemy. Like, this quote is relevant to you because you are a generation which is engulfed in social media. You are a generation which is bearing the brunt of artificial intelligence, and like, friendship in our social sphere nowadays is very complicated. So you have to make friendship with everything in the world, but what kind of friendship you make, that will determine whether you succeed or do not succeed in life. So a very famous quote by Ptolemy: there are three classes of friendship and enmity. So basically Ptolemy is arguing that you have three classes of friendship and enmity, since men are disposed to one another, since men, like, your connection with some person, your connection with some another being is disposed either by preference or by need, preference by need, or by pleasure and pain. So you either have connection by preference, you have connection by need, or by pleasure and pain. So some people in your life might be there because you prefer them, you adore them. Some people might be there in your life because you need them. Okay, without them existing in your life, you cannot function. And lastly, you have some friends with whom you often hang out, you have some friends with often you share your pain. Okay, so these are the three classes of friendship or the enmity which normally Ptolemy gives. Now, why I'm showcasing you this quote today? Those who are listening to me, Aditi, Anshu, Anup, Twinkle, please listen to this very, very carefully. Okay, now is the time, like, I have faith that each and every one of you is preparing for civil services in full swing. Now, the only friendship and enmity you have to maintain is with yourself. Please understand this. Okay, the only friendship and enmity you have to maintain is with yourself. You have to befriend yourself in terms of what? In terms of need, in terms of preference, in terms of preference of what? That you should have a friendship with your brain, that I am needing you now. Why? Because we have to invest roughly 7 to 8 hours of work, and all of this work is mental work. So you have to have that kind of friendship with brain, that brain, I will be needing you. And preference in what sense? That preference, body, please be silent. You have to sit for 6 to 7 hours. So I'm preferring your body, I'm preferring your brain. So this being is preferring this, and it will be needing an intense amount of work from the brain. And pleasure and pain. So you have to have friendship with pleasure and enmity with pain. What will be the pleasure? Pleasure, the kick which you will get from everyday reading of Hindu, the kick which you will get from everyday analyzing your optionals, your GS preparation, the kick which you will get from basically contemplating everything in your mind. So every day you are moving ahead. Every day you are elevating yourself. So that will be the pleasure, that yes, now you are becoming enlightened, that now you are becoming a accomplished individual. And pain, the arduous pain, the physical pain, the mental pain, the agony, okay, the scoldings of the society, or let's say the questioning of the society. Where are you? What are you doing? This is not done, that is not done. Get enmity with that. Just absolutely remove those thoughts from your mind. So please use this famous quote by Ptolemy to make friendship and enmity with you and yourself. No one should be your friend, no one should be your enemy in the present year except you yourself. Okay, gone are those relations which you made up till now in life. Now you have to work upon the relationship with yourself. Please get this very, very straight. And those who work with relationship with themselves, they only fare well in civil services examination and in the life in general thereafter qualifying the civil services examination. Okay, so I'm starting on a very agitated, very powerful note today, because the articles that we have today again are on a little bit somber tone. So you have to bear the pain of those articles today. Hence, I got this quote today. So I hope that everyone is energized, everyone is being with me, and we will set sail through for today's articles. Okay. Good morning, Suraj. So let's begin our today's analysis. So in every lecture, I tend to paint a severity score of articles. Okay. Today's severity score is between 4 to 5. Okay. Like none of the articles are very, very important articles. Just one article is little bit important. So one article is having severity score of 6 to 7. Rest all of the articles are very somber tone articles, but they are on a negative trend. Negative trend means that the news is negative, that the development is negative. Hence, you need to start enjoying this pain, and if this pain starts irritating you, you have to have an enmity, that I am not caring for you, you are not mine. What is mine? My mind is the pleasure which I am getting from reading this current affairs. Okay, so out of all these articles, one article is important, so severity score 6. Rest of the articles between 4 to 6. And applicability wise, majority of the articles today are from prelims perspective. Okay, so mains perspective articles are not that much today, except just one article with regards to the vulnerable sections of society. Rest of the articles are majorly prelims based, which can be directly asked in prelims. Okay, so let's begin our today's session. Let's start today's session. Okay, so the first article today is I'm discussing the side editorial of Hindu, the first side editorial of Hindu. Presently, Supreme Court is on steroids. Okay, like Supreme Court is issuing some historic judgments. Supreme Court is issuing some historical diktats. So again, Supreme Court has issued a very overreaching diktat with regards to the enforcement agencies of India, like the Enforcement Directorate. Now, all of you know what atmosphere ED has created in India. It has instilled fear. It has instilled basically a sense of danger, a sense of fear, a sense of frightening among the peoples, among the government officials. The Supreme Court has crossed the line. Okay, Supreme Court is basically now stepping into the ethical dimensions, wherein the executive, wherein the enforcement agencies of India should not instill a sense of fear via their functioning. Okay, so this is an uncharted territory, guys, where the apex court of India is ruling in this manner. Hence it becomes important to get this properly and utilize this information in mains, in case studies, and you forming an informed opinion, because you as the future civil servants of India, you are also going to face the brunt of this. So if the environment in which you will be functioning, if it's not conducive, if it's not enabling, so it will become very difficult for you all to discharge your duties. The Supreme Court has basically ruled this for you, considering your future too. So let's understand. Okay, timely action. The top court has rightly cautioned probe agencies against crossing limits. So the probing agencies should not cross their limits. This is the caution issued by the Supreme Court. If Supreme Court finds that the limits are being breached still, then Supreme Court will come into force. Then Supreme Court will come into action and it will do something with regards to that. But now Supreme Court has just cautioned. Okay. The Supreme Court's exhortation to the Enforcement Directorate (ED) not to create an atmosphere of fear indicates how much the agencies need to temper in zeal in investigation allegations against the political opponents of the current regime. Okay, so Supreme Court has basically cautioned the Enforcement Directorate in the way they function, in the way they show temper and zeal in investigating the allegations against the politicians. So it's just like once you get ED on your back, it's becoming very difficult to dispose it of, even if you are not accused, even if you are not correct, even if you are not basically resorting to any evil kind of practices, even if you are not corrupt. Then also, if ED is getting behind you under the false notion that somewhere you are involved, or somewhere the ED is getting the link, or some input the ED is getting that yes, this person might be involved, might, okay, the question is might, then also the ED is working with such a zeal, the ED is working with such a temper that it is instilling fear in the minds of the officers. So Supreme Court has basically cautioned with regards to this. Okay. The Supreme Court bench had made the pertinent point that even a bona fide cause means it might be accidental, okay, it might be an error, that a bona fide cause would seem suspect if a law enforcement agency conducted itself in a way that created fear. Okay, so even if a person is accidentally accused, even if there is certain errors in getting the inputs, and even if that your name comes somehow, so ED is functioning in such a way that is instilling fear in the minds of the officers. So this is not done, guys. Okay, the observation is about a caution against the transgressing limits of a lawful investigation and warning against letting a perception gain ground that the agency would go to any lengths to implicate someone. Okay, so what does this mean? The language is somewhat difficult. You don't need to remember this language. This language is very legal, very technical. No need to fear this language. Okay, again, don't need to fear. So basically the observation is both a caution against transgressing the limits of a lawful investigation. So the investigation, if you are under investigation, but naturally the investigation needs to be lawful, but there are certain limits. You should not breach those limits. So Supreme Court has cautioned against transgressing the limits and a warning against letting a perception gain ground and letting a perception gain ground. So if I am somehow accused, if I am somehow being framed, so it should not become that I am guilty, even if I am not guilty. So if I am being framed under false charges, the way the ED is working, the way these agencies are working, it makes me guilty in the eyes of public. So it shouldn't happen. Letting a perception gain ground, that agency would go to any lengths to implicate someone. So it should not be that even if I am being framed on a false charges, I am now having fear that ED will go to any length to persecute me. So this should not be done. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay. Some parties fear that the money laundering law is being used for a political witch hunt. So which law is being used for a political witch hunt? The Money Laundering Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The list of offences that may attract a money laundering probe over and above the police investigation into them is quite long. Corruption allegations being quite common against the politicians holding public office. Each time a scam or scandal is uncovered, the ED follows closely on the heels of agency conducting the anti-corruption probe to register a separate case under Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So whenever a scam comes into play, whenever there is a fraud or a legitimate scam, so ED opens up a separate case under Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So already you are into a police investigation, and now ED is opening a different probe on you under Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So this is not done. While there is no problem with a stringent law on the subject, its executors have to be cautious about excessive zeal and explain an expansive probe without identifying the specific payoffs on following a money trail. So it is not wrong that ED is opening up a case against me. Let's say if I am accused, so if ED has opened, it is not wrong. But the ED should not exercise what? Excessive zeal. Okay. It's like that ED should not be on steroids against me. Okay. There needs to be some professional manner, there needs to be some lawful conduct. The ED should not show excessive zeal. The ED should not transgress its limits. Excessive zeal and expansive probes without identifying specific payoffs or following a money trail. So the ED should not expand. The ED should not basically increase its sphere of probe, should not expand its probe unless and until the ED gets some specific inputs or some specific money trail transactions. Then only the ED should expand the probe. Otherwise, without getting proper inputs, the ED should not tamper or ED should not show excessive zeal. Okay. The current director of enforcement agency was appointed for a 2-year term in 2018. So the current director should have been retired by 2020, but continues to this day thanks to the extension and a change in the law governing such extensions. So the director who was appointed of the ED in 2018 is still the director, and the government is saying that he will be director till November 23. So all of this points to a very shady kind of operations which instill fear among the politicians and also the officers involved in this, all this stuff. So Supreme Court has cautioned that ED should not transgress its limits. And guys, this news is very, very important because normally Supreme Court does not caution or Supreme Court does not issue judgments in such kind of circumstances. Okay, so it is basically judiciary stepping out of its shoes. And the separation of powers which is enshrined in the India's constitution, that separation of powers is now getting conflicted via such kind of judgments, via such kind of cautioning. So you need to understand this from this point of view with regards to separation of powers too. Okay, so you can quote this as an example in ethics, you can quote this as an example in probity, accountability, transparency, that the government nodal agencies for probing should not act in a way that will instill fear among the politicians, among the public representatives and among the officers, and they should not show excessive zeal. That's the word of the Supreme Court. Okay, so remember, excessive zeal and not transgressing the limits of the investigation. Okay. Yeah, Suraj, you are arguing best that they should be neutral. Okay, like that. See, those of you who are watching me, I guess roughly 13 to 14 people are watching me live. See, you are going to be the future civil servants. Even the head of all these agencies are IAS officers, IPS officers. So you take an oath to defend the Constitution of India. So your allegiance should be primarily to what? Constitution of India. Please remember this whenever you will be put under stress in the interview, whenever the interview panel will put you under stress, your one word answer should be, my allegiance is to the Constitution of India. Anything against it, you are picking up arms. Then you are not seeing what you are doing or what not you are doing. Anything threatening the Constitution of India, it is your moral duty as well as ethical duty. Moral duty, why? Because you are the civil servant, you have to serve the society. Why ethical duty? Because the government of India has given you that power. So it is societal duty as well as your moral duty to do so. Okay, chalo, let's move ahead. Let's discuss the second article. Okay. So guys, this article is a very, very unique article. Okay, very often these articles do not come, but for the first time I'm discussing state of play on the op-ed page of Hindu. Okay, very rarely you will find such articles coming in the state of pay page. Like those of you who are new to me, those of you who are seeing me for the first time or have not watched the very first lecture of this analysis, I am highly suggesting you today to please watch the first lecture wherein I discuss the different pages of Hindu, and I did give you the information that on the op-ed page you have a state of play wherein the case studies are discussed. So yesterday I discussed the first data point with you. Today I am discussing the first state of play with you all. Okay, so basically before this government in Andhra Pradesh came, so the capital of Andhra Pradesh was shifted from Hyderabad to Amravati. But now this government is doing what? This government is forming three capitals in Andhra Pradesh. Just imagine, you will have judicial capital, you will have legislative capital, and you will have executive capital. So in just one state, you are going to have three capitals, and all of these capitals are being formed under the decentralization framework. Okay, now what are the issues in this, and why the farmers are agitating, why the farmers have filed a separate case in the Supreme Court? Let us understand this issue. And this is a very unique article. Okay, very rare you will find such articles coming in Hindu. So please use this article again in a case study format or as quoting with regards to accountability and transparency. Okay, Nida, every PDF will be provided, don't worry. Like if you are new to me, I will, after this lecture, I will give you the link for giving the PDF, don't worry, and the PDFs are available in the same format. But just merely reading the PDF will not do anything. You have to understand the way I am discussing with you. So in a way, guys, like all of this information is freely available to you. Why are you watching these lectures with me? Because you lack analysis, and that is why I'm here. Okay, I'm going to give you the analysis, the approach to approach the Hindu. Okay, because please remember, the mains is an examination of expression, how you express, and what expression you will do, your experience. So it becomes very imperative to understand the issue, the way the issue has to be targeted, because if you don't target the issue holistically, your answers will not be proper. Okay, and my ultimate aim with you all is that you need to write very beautiful answers, and in that answers you should score marks. Okay. So let's move ahead. So the three capitals in Andhra Pradesh, the government's decision has brought the development of Amravati to a halt. Okay, the same thing happens. So if you have a regime change, if you have a political party change, then whatever projects, whatever development initiatives the previous regime has initiated, all of it comes to a halt. Okay, and who suffers in the end? Public. Where is democracy? Okay. The Andhra Pradesh government's decision to have a three capital, Vishakhapatnam as executive capital, while Amravati and Kurnool as legislative and judicial capitals respectively, brought the development of Amravati to a grinding halt 3 years ago. Why? Because the previous government made Amravati as the capital, and they invested a lot amount of money, and basically they went for land acquisition by land pooling scheme. So the poor farmers basically pulled their lands to the government under the purview that in the future they will be getting good incentive, in the future they will be getting good housing. But all of this has bitten to the dust because of regime change. Okay. As a consequence of decentralization move, which is intended to achieve balanced development of all the regions, the infrastructure created at a huge cost in Amravati, including the villas for High Court judges and senior IAS officers, most of which neared completion during the TDP regime, is now lying in the dumps. Why? Because the previous government initiated something different, and now this government is advocating for three capitals in Andhra Pradesh. So whatever the infrastructure cost has been incurred in this, all of it has gone into the dustbin. Okay. What happens to the massive investment in the event of government getting the clearance by courts to shift to the port city, and the impact of such shift on the future land acquisitions are the questions that are difficult to answer. Okay, so now just imagine that the present regime gets the nod by the courts that yes, you can shift to Vishakhapatnam. So what about the development projects which were initiated in Amravati during the previous regime, and what this will paint a picture in the future with regards to land acquisition? Will people give you land? Why? Because in the previous regime you loot the people in giving you land under the umbrella that you will be getting good housing, you will be getting good facilities, but you have not getting anything. Rather, the poor farmers have to file a case in the Supreme Court now. So how can you earn the trust of the people? So in the future, land acquisition will be playing a major role in the electorate of Andhra Pradesh. Okay, in the elections of Andhra Pradesh. Given the government's refusal to budge from its stand on three capitals, the fate of Amravati appears to all but stalled. So the present regime is basically grounded. The present regime is basically firm with regards to implementing the three capitals of Andhra Pradesh, the three capital system under the purview of decentralization, and hence what will happen to Amravati, we don't know. Okay. Next point. Okay. So the present party stormed to power, and soon after the change of guard came into idea of three capitals, it came as a shocker to multitude of farmers who approached to the High Court for justice. So the farmers first approached to High Court. The High Court delivered its verdict in their favor in March 2022. However, the farmers' joy was shortlisted as instead of implementing the writ of mandamus passed by the SC, the state government sought at least 5 years to complete the development of Amravati by citing various excuses and went to challenge the SC's judgment in the Supreme Court. So the farmers did get justice in the High Court, but you all know how government functions. So government will showcase your dreams, and once the dreams are being showcased, once you have trust in them, then all of these dreams are gone because you are woken up from the sleep. So same thing happened with the farmers in Amravati. So they did went to the High Court, they did won the case, they did win the case. So then the state government said that yes, we will try to do something, and it sought a time of 5 years. Okay, in this 5 years what will happen, we don't know. So now the farmers have moved to Supreme Court. Okay. If the government gets to move to Visakhapatnam, it has to put the infrastructure in Amravati to use to not waste the money spent, and may also have to pay a massive compensation to farmers for violating the agreements entered with them. Against this backdrop, the present chief minister makes statements that he will start functioning from Visakhapatnam in few months. So who will bear the cost? Who will compensate the farmers? We don't know anything. So basically, this is a clear-cut example with regards to the failure of democracy, with regards to the failure of representation of the people, and with regards to the failure of eroding of trust of the people. Okay, because where is democracy in all this? If farmers are putting trust in you, it's your duty as their representative to revert back them, but you are not doing so. So you are basically concerned with your own prosperity, with your own happiness, with your own legacy than the people who have basically elected you. So this is not a good picture in the world's largest democracy, that is India. Okay. So the farmers did challenge. They challenged what? They challenged the allotment of house sites to beneficiaries from EWS hailing from across the state. So now what happened when the government said that yes, we will give you land? So the government did what? They basically opened up the entire capital of Amravati for the economically weaker section from across the state. So now the farmers became agitated. Why the farmers become agitated? Because they said that basically this land should have been given to us back with development, with all the amenities, but now you are opening up this land for everyone across the state. So you know why this is being done, to get more votes. So if all the people from all the different part of the state are able to flock to capital, but naturally it will benefit the political party. So basically the farmers have challenged this decision of the government, wherein they are opening this land for everyone in the Andhra Pradesh state who hails in the EWS category. Okay, the government is going by its hunch that the people will reward it for taking up decentralization in the form of votes next year. Okay, so very critical article, but yes, this is how everything works. Okay, clearly garnering votes is the underlying objective of the three capitals plan, and the government is sounding pretty confident about it. Will it actually pay off remains a $1,000,000 question. So if I'm trying to summarize this article for you all, so the article is in this way, that the previous regime basically advocated for a shift of capital of Andhra Pradesh from Hyderabad to Amravati. So it initiated massive infrastructure projects in Amravati. For this, it pulled the land from the farmers, and as it pulled the land for the farmers, they were assured that they will get that land back with good amenities, they will have good housing, but everything was bit to dust because of regime change. Now this new regime is basically advocating for 3 capitals. So what about the land in Amravati? So the farmers did approach the High Court, the High Court did rule in their favor, and basically then government sought 5 years to do something, and it kept on giving excuses. And now the present stance of the government is that we will open up the capital of Amravati for everyone falling under the EWS category in Andhra Pradesh. So now the farmers are agitated even more that where is justice being served to us? Okay, so now they have approached the Supreme Court, whereas the government is hunching on the 3 capital system under the purview that decentralization will give them more votes. So this is the state of play that is happening in Andhra Pradesh. And again, the burden of injustice, and again the burden of inequality, again the burden of apathy is falling on the poor sections of India. So that is the legacy of case studies in India, that in India always poor will bear the brunt of everything. So guys, like, it's my humble request to you, those of you who are watching me live, that please make sure that when you become civil servants, you do something with regards to this, because the moral fabric of India is not only dependent on the rich class, it is the poor farmer who is ensuring the food security of India. If farmers resort to not growing crops, if farmers just forfeit their weapons, what will happen, guys? Their weapons are the plows, their weapons are the hulls, which they use for plowing the field. If they let go of their weapons, the food security of India will get compromised. So it's my humble request to you in the future that you, as the future civil servants of India, ensure this does not happen. Okay, so let's move ahead. Okay, the next article today is again from a prelims perspective. I won't be going into details of this article that much because everything will come in the economics when you will do that. So you know that there is an interbanking lending rate on which the banks lend money to each other. So that is called as LIBOR. So why are financial regulators transitioning from LIBOR? Okay, why? Basically now there is an increased debate that you should not be dependent on LIBOR and that you should now have a new rate, a new indexing mechanism. Why? Because there are certain duplicacies in LIBOR. There are certain inherent basically mistakes in LIBOR in terms of its representation, in terms of its moral content. So what are that? What is LIBOR? Let us understand this. What is LIBOR? What is the controversial story surrounding the global benchmark interest rate and what happened during the 2008 global financial crisis? So what is LIBOR, guys? This one article will paint you the entire definition. So LIBOR is a global benchmark interest rate that combines individual rates at which bank opine they may borrow from each other. So bank do borrow money from each other. So that money is borrowed at an interest rate based on LIBOR, okay, for a particular period of time at the London interbank rate. At the London interbank rate, it is used as a benchmark to settle trades in futures, options, swaps, and other derivative financial instruments in over-the-counter markets and on exchanges globally. Further, consumer lending products including mortgages, credit cards, and student loans, among others, to use it as a benchmark rate. So what is LIBOR? LIBOR is a global benchmark interest rate that combines individual rates at which the banks opine they may borrow from each other. So if the two banks are borrowing from each other, if the bank is lending you credit card, if the bank is lending you student loan, so the interest rate which bank lends you with money, it is decided on the basis of what? It is decided at the London interbank market rate. So that is called as LIBOR. Okay, every business day before 11 a.m. London time, banks on the LIBOR panel make their own submissions to the news and financial data company Thomson Reuters. The panel consists of commercial bankers. Following the submission, the contributed rates are ranked. Extreme quarterlies on the top and bottom are excluded, and the middle quarterlies are averaged to derive the LIBOR. The idea is to be as close to the median as possible. So every day before 11 a.m., the LIBOR panel members, they come, and the member panels, the panel members are basically the top banks. So each bank will give its own rate, and the top and the lowest are basically cordon off, that we will not be usually giving this interest rate. The middle value or the average value of interest rate is used, and that is now the LIBOR rate globally. So whenever this bank give this interest rate, or whenever the panel members give this interest rate in this submission, that is where the issue is. So let us understand what is the controversy around it. Okay, the central flaw in the mechanism was that it relied heavily on the banks to be honest with their reporting, disregarding their commercial interests. Please understand, the central flaw in the mechanism was that it relied heavily on the banks to be honest with their reporting, disregarding their commercial interest. So if I am a bank A, okay, and if I am a panel member of the LIBOR, okay, so I have to declare my interest rate every day before 11 a.m. So if I am finding that my bank is not functioning properly, or if my bank is functioning extremely properly, so I will do what? I will try to manipulate my interest rates. Okay, if my bank is not functioning that properly, so I want people to borrow money from me, so I will have to, so people should give money to me. So if people want to invest in my bank, so I will do what? I will try to give more interest rate. And if people want to get more loan from me, so I will reduce what? I will reduce the interest rate, so that my bank functions more properly. So it's basically a game of honesty. Okay, the more the honest you will be, the more this LIBOR rate will be good. But what happened during 2008 financial crisis? Okay, it must be noted that the rates were made public, therefore it would not be particularly useful to impress upon potential and current customers the various disadvantages in obtaining funds. The phenomenon was particularly on display during the 2008 financial crisis, when the submissions were artificially lowered amid crisis. So this is what happened during the 2008 financial crisis. The submissions which the LIBOR panel members made before 11 a.m. every day in London, they were altered artificially. They were lowered artificially, so as to do what? So if the interest rate is lowered, you will do what? You will start spending more, because your credit card will not be charged with the higher interest rate, so you will start spending more. So as people will start spending more, the private consumption will increase. As the private consumption will increase, the wheels of economy will start turning. But was this justified? No. If you are artificially lowering and increasing the interest rate and not considering the present global circumstances, it is not good. So it's a question of honesty. So whether you are putting your commercial interest first, or you are putting your honesty first, that is the main question surrounding this LIBOR controversy. So now globally, majority of the banks and majority of the financial regulators are tending to move away from this LIBOR, because this is based on the submissions every day, and in that submissions the LIBOR panel members are not that honest. They tend to manipulate this with regards to their commercial interest. Okay, so they are manipulating these rates, and it was evident also during the 2008 financial crisis, when the rates were artificially lowered so as to spur consumption, so as to spur more and more spending by the individuals, so that the wheels of economy turn. So the global debt crisis which was there, we should come out of it, and again the burden should be borne by the society, because if you are spending more, it means you will have to pay your credit card bill, so the bank will anyhow get its money back. Okay, so do we have any alternatives in place? Yes, there is one alternative in place which was proposed by USA, and you also have one alternative in India, but both of these alternatives have not yet been materialized. So still there is a debate as to what should be the global benchmark interest rate. The crux of the article is this. Please understand this. What is the crux of the article? That as of today, we don't have a proper alternative to LIBOR. The global financial regulators are trying to slip away from this, but what is the future, we don't know. Okay, in 2017, the US Federal Reserve announced the Secured Overnight Financial Rate (SOFR) as a preferred alternative. Accordingly, in India, new transactions were to be undertaken using SOFR, and the modified Mumbai Interbank Forward Outgoing Outright Rate MMIFR replacing the MIFOR. So please understand this, that in 2017 US did came up with a new rate, and that rate was called as SOFR, Secured Overnight Financial Rate, Financing Rate, SOFR. And in India, the new transactions were to be undertaken using SOFR and the modified Mumbai Interbank Forward Outright Rate, MMIFOR, replacing the MIFOR. So MIFOR is Mumbai Interbank Forward Outright Rate, but now you are adding M behind it. It is modified. Why modified? Because now you are using SOFR and not LIBOR. So it was modified, but this has not yet been materialized. Okay. As stated by the International Finance Corporation, it is based on observable repo rates or the cost of borrowings on cash overnight, which is collateralized by the US Treasury securities, thus making it a prevalent transaction-based rate and drifting away from the requirement of an expertise judgment as in LIBOR. This would make it potentially less prone to market manipulation. Okay, so basically, the International Finance Corporation is arguing that the SOFR is lacking the expertise judgment as in LIBOR. Hence, as it is lacking the expertise judgment, so it will make it potentially less prone to market manipulation. Okay, so the LIBOR basically is little bit prone to manipulation because of market forces. Why? If there is a global crisis, you are lowering. If the crisis is not there, if the economies are functioning, so you are slightly basically increasing the interest rate. But that is not evident in SOFR. Okay, so how is India resorting to this regime change? The RBI has stated in its November 2022 bulletin that India exposures to LIBOR are from loan contracts linked to it and foreign currency non-resident accounts, deposits with floating rates of interest and derivatives. In August same year, the banking regulator had asked banks to assess their LIBOR exposures and prepare for adoption of alternative reference rates. Contracts entered after December 31st, 2021 were not to use LIBOR as reference rate. More importantly, contracts entered before the date were to have fallback clauses, that is an agreement for revised considerations when the reference rate is more published, important for transparency and consistency. So, if a question comes in your prelims that presently what is the stance of RBI? So, after December 31st, 2021, none of the institutions in India were to use LIBOR as the reference rate. So make sure that you are comfortable with this, that according to RBI, after December 31st, 2021, none of the contracts entered need to be based on LIBOR. So this can simply come as one liner in prelims. So don't make this mistake. Hence, I have not yet marked this paragraph. So just need to understand this, that after December 31st, 2021, none of the contracts need to use LIBOR as their reference rate. Okay, so it is still not clear which rate we are using. Now we are using the reference rate of SOFR and the modified Mumbai Interbank overnight rate. So that is what we are using now. Okay, so it's a mix of this. So I'm again reiterating, guys. Okay, if we read the gist over here, on May 12th, the RBI stated that some banks and financial institutions were yet to facilitate an absolute transition away from the London Interbank offered rate. LIBOR is a global benchmark interest rate that combines individual rates at which the banks opine they may borrow from each other at the London Interbank market rate. In 2017, the Federal Reserve announced the secured overnight finance rate as a preferred alternative. So at present, do we have any alternative to LIBOR? Yes, you have the SOFR of the US Treasury, and in India now we are using MMIFOR. So this is the modified Mumbai Internet Foreign Overnight Rate, which are now be using along with the SOFR. And after December 31st, 2021, as of from 1st January of 2022, okay, we are not dependent on LIBOR. So any contract will not be dependent, will not be using the LIBOR rate. Please get this straight very, very properly. Okay, so let's move ahead to next article. Next article is very important for the girls in the class. Okay, and also with regards to the deplorable situation of women in the Bimaru states, especially in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Bihar. Okay, so the girls in the class, those who are watching me, this might be a little bit daunting to you, and the words which will come out of my mouth, they will also be a little bit daunting, but that's the harsh reality of Indian society. Okay, so please take my words in a positive spirit, guys. Those who are watching me, I don't know who are watching, you are free to comment, but those who are watching me now and those who will be watching me hereafter, please don't get agitated by words, please don't get fallen by my words, don't let my words rattle to you to the core, because you as future civil servants of India, you need to be as harsh as possible, because out of 100%, 90 to 95% of the things which will come in your way will be negative, because it's your duty to correct them, it's your duty to make positive changes in the society. So please make sure that the negatives don't affect you, and you understand the psyche, you understand the morality, and you understand the ethicality of every issue. See, psyche is basically how individual person thinks, and how an individual person thinks, it links to what it is linked to its own morals, its own values. And what is ethicality? Ethicality is values applied at societal level. So you will have a difference in psyche of what, of the individual and of the society. Okay, so if a society is saying that this is good or this is right, it might be wrong for the individual, and the reverse might also be true. What is right for the individual, it may be wrong for the society. So the picture which I am painting in front of you, that is basically happening on a societal level, which is absolutely garbage, which is absolutely worthless on an individual level. And this is with regards to the central government ensuring directions to the state government to reduce unnecessary hysterectomies in the women. Okay, so hysterectomy is basically the removal of uterus, okay, in the woman. So central government has basically said that you need to take steps to reduce unnecessarily hysterectomies, central states. Okay, missive from the health ministry comes after the Supreme Court judgment flagged the violation of women's right to health. Order was based on a petition that said some hospitals were carrying out the procedure to claim fees via insurance. How bad this is. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's understand what is this. Worried that the poor, less educated, please understand this, poor, less educated women, particularly in rural areas, continue to be at the higher risk of undergoing unnecessary and often unjustified hysterectomies. The health ministry has written to all stakeholders to work towards plunging such hysterectomies performed by certain medical institutions. So, hysterectomies means you are having removal of uterus. So, post that, a woman cannot give birth to any children. Okay, so basically, you are snatching the reproductive rights of the woman. And you all know reproductive rights, they do become a part of Article 21 of Constitution. It's a fundamental right under right to life. It's right to reproductive health. And what happens in the rural areas, guys, once the woman has given birth, okay, and now the family thinks that no, now the birth needs to be controlled. Why? Because you all know what happens in rural India. In rural India, do people use protections? Do people use contraceptive measures? Do people use condoms? No. There is absolute lack of oversight. There is no awareness with regards to using contraception. Okay, the government is not basically doing this right step. See, in India, the couple protection ratio is very, very low. Couple protection ratio means those couples who use contraceptive measures like condoms for basically controlling childbirth. In rural India, they have no kind of oversight in this. So because of this, what happens? The population or the fertility rate of women increases. First of all, there is no education, there is poverty. So there is a philosophy of hands that many working hands will contribute more to the household, and once that is done, then the women rights are curtailed. So it's basically the apathy of men, it is basically the apathy of the society, that they are not able to control their urge, they are not able to understand what are the contraceptive measures, that the women are bearing the brunt of it. Isn't this right or isn't this wrong? Okay, so if you think from the men's perspective, this is right. If you think from the women's perspective, it's absolutely garbage. Okay, even if I've just uttering the word contraceptive condoms, okay, so if this lecture is being showcased to somewhere in the rural areas, people will shut down this. Why? Because they have they are, so first of all, they feel ashamed in understanding these issues. Number two, it might go against their religious beliefs too. I'm not commenting on the religious belief, otherwise this will become a very different curriculum, very different discourse, and it is also against their societal ethics. So this is not done, guys. Okay, you need to understand that the women of India, the women folk of rural India, don't need to give up their right to reproductive health just for the lack of awareness with regards to use of contraceptives, the use of medicines, like you do have medicines, like you do have tablets which basically reduce the fertile window, which basically help in controlling the pregnancy. But again, those medicines are not good for the reproductive health of women. So the only option left to counter this is basically to evaluate from a societal point of view as to what is wrong in rural India. Okay, what is wrong? It's absolute lack of awareness. Okay, there is no oversight, there are no campaigns over there to educate the people that yes, you need to use contraception. Why? Because using contraception will not only help you in controlling the population growth, but it will also help you in controlling the spread of diseases, because you do have sexually transmitted diseases so much prevalent in rural India, and the women folk, they don't even know that whether they have gotten this STD or not. So a woman is tricked, oh, that you are having some pain in the uterus, and that pain is basically due to a STD infection in the vaginal tract, and if that vaginal tract is going to give some life-threatening condition to the woman, so they are undergoing forced hysterectomies. So this is absolutely garbage, guys. This is absolutely daunting on the parts of rural women. And you will be shocked to hear this, that in the western most developed countries, if you go to Scandinavia, if you go to USA, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Singapore, if you go to New Zealand, Australia, so there you do have government sanctioned hysterectomy. Okay, women can opt for hysterectomy, but only after the age of 45, when you start showing premenopausal symptoms, then a woman can do that. But in India, if you go to rural India, then this hysterectomies, the average age group which women are resorting to hysterectomies is just between 28 to 36 years. Just imagine this, that in India, when a woman is fertile, then you are doing this post hysterectomy. And why this is being done? Number first, because of lack of awareness, there is the couple protection ratio in India is very less. So this is on the part of what? This is on the part of the individual. But now, wherein the actual issue lies? So if a woman goes for hysterectomy surgery in a hospital, so the hospital claims what? Insurance money for doing hysterectomy. So see what complete lack of empathy, what complete lack of erodibility of trust, and what complete lack of any accountability is there, that you are basically doing this surgery just to claim insurance money. What absolutely, like, I'm not getting the words, this being a live session, but it basically paints a very grim picture of rural India. And you guys as future civil servants, some of you might become the health secretaries, some of you might go into the health departments. It will be your responsibility to stop this menace. Okay, so please treat these articles from a responsibility perspective. This is not current affairs, guys. This is responsibility affairs. Please get this straight. The articles which I'm showcasing you, these are not current affairs, these are responsibility affairs. And unless and until you get imbibed in yourself that this will be your responsibility in the future of India does not hold true. And dare I say, you will not become the best of civil servant which India will have. And me, okay, like if I'm bringing a child in the future, every one of you will bring a child in the future. Do we want our children to live in such kind of society where the poor are literally exploited, where the poor are absolutely neglected? No, absolutely not. So it's your responsibility affair to do this. Okay, so let's move forward. A public interest litigation filed before the Supreme Court had said that in Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and Rajasthan, unnecessarily hysterectomies were carried out under the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana as well as other government schemes related to healthcare. So forced hysterectomies are carried out under Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. Okay. It is also highlighted the involvement of private hospitals in performing such hysterectomies. Okay. The petitioner also submitted that most women who were subjected to hysterectomies of this kind belong to the everyday story of India, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, or other backward communities. It was also noted with concern that several healthcare institutions were found to be misusing the procedure only to claim expenses under various insurance schemes offered by the government. So just imagine this, the healthcare institutions are doing these surgeries just for what? They are misusing to claim expenses under the various health insurance schemes. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay. Developed countries, hysterectomies are typically conducted among premenopausal women above the age of 45. So above the age of 45, a woman enters into premenopausal age. After 50, you have menopause. But in India, community-based studies have consistently found the rising hysterectomy rates among young women ranging from 28 to 36 years of age. So just imagine this. Why? Because there is no couple protection thing in India. The couple protection ratio of India is very less. So you need to educate the rural folk that there exists a thing called as contraception. Okay. The right to health is intrinsic element of right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. So you cannot just snatch away the right to health of the women in the rural folk of India. Okay. So let's move ahead. This was a very somber tone article today, but yes, we have to discuss this article. Okay. So this article, I told you, this is having a severity score of around 6 to 8. So key climate threshold likely to be bridged in 5 years. So this is climate change on steroids. Okay. So this report has been borne by the World Meteorological Organization. All of you know that now El Nino conditions are developing in the Pacific. I won't be commenting on El Nino and La Nina. Those of you who are watching me now, okay, see you tomorrow, Suraj. So I hope that you know what is El Nino and La Nina, because that will take up separate 1 hour to make you understand the geographical condition. So those of you who don't know what is El Nino and La Nina, it's my humble request to you that just you can open up NCERT, you can search in the NCERT, or you can just do a Google search what is El Nino and La Nina, and you will be pretty comfortable. Okay, but now as El Nino conditions develop, so globally as El Nino develops, it results into two things. Number first, it increases the global average temperatures, and number two, it basically reduces the monsoonal onset on India. So the monsoon on India is affected because of El Nino too. Okay, so the WMO has cautioned that it is near certain that 2023-27 will be the warmest 5-year period ever recorded, the United Nations warned on Wednesday, as greenhouse gases and El Nino combine to send temperatures soaring. So the greenhouse gases, they basically trap the heat which is radiated from the Earth's surface, and as you are pumping more and more greenhouse gases, the heat trap increases, and because of this you will have temperature soaring, and add to it, what would add fuel to fire? El Nino. Okay, there is a 2/3 chance, so there is a 2/3 chance that at least one of the next 5 years will see global temperatures exceed the more ambitious target set out in the Paris Climate Accord on limiting climate change, UNWMO want. So according to Paris Climate Accord, it was said that we should not let the global temperatures exceed the 2 degrees Celsius mark above the pre-industrial levels, and if we can manage, we should limit this to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But now it is already evident that we will cross the 1.5 degrees Celsius mark in the next 5 years, and it might go up to 1.8 degrees Celsius. So this we had kept a target till 2100. Okay, and we are already 1.8 degrees Celsius between 2023 to 27. So see where we have come. Okay, and all of this is because of the Western luxury. Okay, somebody wants to buy Rolls Royce, somebody wants to buy Lamborghini, somebody wants to have a 100-bedroom mansion, somebody wants to own a super yacht, somebody wants to buy a private plane to go from one place to another, which the distance is less than 200 kilometers. So if you are having such kind of lifestyle, if you are having such high carbon footprint, so but naturally this is going to happen. So again, India, supposedly the third world country under the eyes of Western media. So India again will bear the brunt of climate change. Why? Because climate change will manifest in the most drastic way on the tropical lands. Why? Because we will have sea level rise. India having such a big coastline, we will suffer from sea level rise. India's climate heavily dependent on monsoon. India's climate is monsoonal. Our agriculture is dependent on monsoon. So our agriculture is basically the play in the hand of rain god. So if climate change happens, if El Nino comes with full force, our monsoons will get dwindled. And if monsoons get dwindled, what about the agriculture in India? So again, we will bear the brunt at the cost of the Western luxuries. Okay, I'm being very harsh, guys, but this is how you need to approach these issues. Why? Because you in future will have to deal with this, and climate change is now evident everywhere in the world, and nobody is outside its ambit. Okay, let's move ahead. The 2015 Paris Climate Agreement saw countries agree to cap global warming at well below 2 degrees Celsius above the average levels measured between 1850 and 1900 and 1.5 degrees Celsius if possible. Okay, the global mean temperature for 2022 was 1.15 degrees Celsius above the 185 1900 average. So already in 2022 we were above 1.1.5 degree, the average of 1850 to 1900. The WMO said that there is a 66% chance, two-third chance, that the annual global surface temperatures will exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels for at least one of the years of 2023 and 2027, with a range of 1.5 degrees Celsius to 1.8 degrees Celsius forecasted for each of those 5 years. So the coming years 2023 to 27, this year and the coming 5 years, we will be already up by how much? By 1.1 to 1.8 degrees Celsius above what? The average temperature of 1850 to 1900, the pre-industrial level temperatures. Okay, a warming El Nino is expected to develop in the coming months, and this will combine with the human-induced climate change to push global temperatures into uncharted territory. So this, both of this will putting the global temperatures into uncharted territory. Okay, just I'm diverging for a movement. I'm requesting just your attention for 2 minutes, because I want to make you understand what is basically climate change and how it results into different warmings like global warming. Okay, so this is the surface of the earth, guys. I'm just diverging your attention for 2 to 3 minutes, just bear with me. So this is the surface of the earth. Okay, this is the incoming insolation of the sun. Okay, the incoming insolation of the sun is long wave, sorry, the incoming insolation of the sun is short wave and high energy. Please get this, this is short wave, high energy. So this is basically the electromagnetic radiation which we get from the sun, and the outgoing radiation, so this will be striking the surface of earth. The earth will work upon it. Work means what? It will absorb. Okay, at it, as it will absorb, it will radiate out the heat, and the heat which is radiated out, this is long wave and less energy. This is long wave and less energy, and this long wave and less energy is trapped by the greenhouse substances and the greenhouse gases present in the atmosphere. Like you have carbon dioxide, you have the sulfurous gases, you have the nitrogenous compounds, you have methane. Okay, you also have carbon monoxide. So all of these are greenhouse substances and gases. So now what we are doing, we are basically pumping more and more carbon in the atmosphere by the way of burning fossil fuels, because of incomplete combustion of fossil fuels in your private jets, in your super yachts, in your big cruise ships. So as you are doing this, more and more greenhouses are being pumped into the atmosphere. So as more and more greenhouses are pumped, the more will be the heat trap. As the more heat will be trapped, it will result into what? It will result into global warming. And this global warming will result into what? It will result into climate change. So guys, please get this straight. It is because of global warming that we are having climate change and not the reverse. It is not that climate change is resulting into global warming. No, Please clear this. As we are pumping more carbon, it is resulting into more heat trapped. As more heat is trapped, it is resulting into more global warming and hence more climate change. And where the climate change will manifest? Climate change will manifest in those areas which are more climatically sensitive. So if you go to the North Pole and South Pole, these areas are extremely vulnerable to climate change. So climate change will manifest over there. India, maritime country, we are having a very big coastline. Our agriculture is dependent on monsoons. So because of that, you will have more and more climatic anomalies in India. Now add to this, you will also have El Nino. Add to this, you will also have El Nino. So already the fire was lit. Now you are adding fuel to the fire. So I hope this very small and short discussion of climate change is clear to you all. Okay. So a warming El Nino is expected to develop in the coming months, and this will combine with human-induced climate change to push global temperatures into uncharted territory. Okay. So there is no return to climate which persisted during the last century. So this is with regards to the WMO itself saying that now climate has completely changed and we will never be able to see the climate of the past century. So the climate from 1900 to 2000, so 1901 till 1999, we will never be able to see the same climate on earth ever. Why? Because now we are causing climate change. Okay. So the last article of today, it's a headline based article. Don't need to go into the details. Okay. So Center has basically launched the production link incentive scheme for IT hardware industry. Okay. So now the central government has basically increased the incentive. So why we need to have PLI scheme for IT hardware? Because India needs to be at the forefront of modern communication technologies like 5G, like 6G, like Internet of Things. Hence, to bolster the growth of IT industry in India, to bolster the manufacture of IT goods in India, we basically started what? PLI, Production Link Incentive Scheme. The more the goods you produce, the more the incentive you will get in the form of tax rebates, in the form of export promotion, in the form of governmental oversight. So all of that you will get a rebate when you will manufacture more and more goods. Now, the government has amended it for IT hardware. Okay. The Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved an updated production linked incentive scheme for IT hardware manufacturing with the total budgetary outlay more than doubled to 17,000 crore. So now the budgetary outlay has been doubled to 17,000 crore. So this much the government will give you in terms of incentives if you start manufacturing locally. The electronics manufacturing in India has witnessed consistent growth with 17% cumulative annual aggregate growth rate in last 8 years. This year it crossed a major benchmark in production. So we had total 105 billion of production of IT hardware. India crossed $11 billion in mobile phone exports and was now the second largest mobile phone handset manufacturer behind China. So the total IT hardware market in India crossed 105 billion and India is now the second largest mobile phone exporter after China. Okay. So under this scheme, what will be given? Okay. So please understand this. The scheme will give upwards of 4% in incentives for incremental investment in domestic manufacturing for eligible firms like Dell and Flextronics. So if the foreign companies are setting up their manufacturing units in India, so they will be getting incentives of how much? Around 4%. They were supposed to get this 4%. Now this incentive has been risen to 5%. So if Dell is setting up its manufacturing unit in India, under PLI scheme, it was entitled to 4% rebate in the form of tax, in the form of export promotion, anything. Okay. But now this incentive has been raised to 5% with an optional incentive added for using domestically produced components. So now if Dell is manufacturing in India, already it will have how much incentive? 5% incentive. But if now Dell is using the components which are itself manufactured in India. So if a Dell is manufacturing this marker, imagine this is a digital marker. So for this, Dell has two options, that the Dell can either import the components of this marker from different country and can only assemble in India, For that, Dell will get how much rebate? Only 5%. But now the components which are required for manufacturing this marker, all of these components Dell will also manufacture in India locally. So it will have additional rebate in terms of optional incentive added for using domestically produced components. And including the optional incentive, the total incentive may go up to 8 to 9%. So initially it was only 4% in the form of incentive. Now it has been increased to 5%. The budgetary allocation has been increased to 17,000 crores, doubled. And if you are using domestically manufactured components, so this can go up to 8 to 9%. So this can easily go up to 8 to 9%. So this much of incentive you can get in terms of tax rebates, in terms of export promotion, anything. So it might be anything, it will be dependent on the industry. Okay, so guys, this sums up the articles for today. Okay, today's articles were little bit agitated articles, hence my tone was little bit more agitated today, but we need to do this. Okay, my name is Pritesh Mathurkar. Okay, you can join me on a Telegram channel wherein I will be posting these PDFs just after this session is over. The name of the channel is HAZ, the Hindu Analysis Zone. You have to make it special. That is what I keep on telling every day, because if you don't make it special, it's of no use. So it's your efforts which will make this channel special. And in this channel, I don't post anything, I don't comment anything, I just post the PDFs. That's it. So get these PDFs, work upon them and move ahead. And for joining this channel, you can just do a global search on Telegram at the Hindu Analysis Zone. You will get this channel. Please join it. Okay. So on the behalf of StudyIQ IAS English, I thank each and every one of you for patiently listening to me, and I hope that these sessions are enlightening to you and that you will be with me for the days to come. Okay, so all the best everyone. I extend my warmest regards, my heartfelt blessings to everyone. Keep on working hard and smart. See you all tomorrow. Bye bye. Okay.